Hi everyone, welcome back to my videos. If you have watched my previous two videos about growing food in small spaces, there is one important detail that I forgot in those videos, so I made a short video and I'll get Nathaniel to post it for you guys. So if you've seen the previous two, please watch the short one to see what you missed. And if you haven't watched the previous two, then you don't need to worry about watching it. Now, I know last week I said that I would try and get permission to film in Ishkodwan for this week. And that's still in the works, so it's still a possibility, but for now, it hasn't quite worked out yet. So, for this week, I was going to go over how to enjoy nature without growing your own garden. Because I know that, especially for students, you might not have the money, you might not have the time, you might not even want to have to put in the effort to grow your own food or grow your own plants in your house. So I thought I would go over different ways that you can connect with nature and with plants without having to own any. And as well, I'm going to go over some of the places in Ottawa that you can go to experience nature. So to start with, I just want to go over some of the health benefits of spending time in nature, why it's good for you to do that. There have been numerous studies, way more than I can possibly cite in a short video. But they've basically found that spending time in nature helps with stress management, helps with anxiety, helps with depression. It can help with symptoms of things like ADHD, Alzheimer's. It can help inspire you, help you be more creative. It can help you sleep better, and it can also help you feel more connected with the world and the plants and the animals around, which can help if you, especially right now with COVID and being isolated and not being able to see people, feeling connected to the environment is a good way to help with that. And the great thing about spending time in nature is that you can invest as much or as little time as you want into it. It literally only takes a few moments, just take a moment to just maybe sit under a tree. I like to sit under trees and look up and see all the leaves and the wind and the way the wind plays with the leaves. Or you can take a moment to just lie in the grass. And if you're not comfortable lying in the grass directly, you can lie in the grass on a blanket. Another thing you can do to enjoy nature if you only have a few minutes available is to put your bare hands or your bare feet directly onto the grass or onto the earth. This practice is known as earthing. And if you want to know more about that, you can look online for it. I also know that Nathaniel did a couple movement as medicine videos last summer where he talked about earthing. So I don't know if those are still available, but if they are, you can check those out. One of my other favorite activities to do is to just sit and listen. And just hear the wind in the trees and the birds chirping. And you'd be amazed at the things you can hear when you take the time to just sit and listen for a few minutes. So all of my teachings that I've received about like harvesting medicines and harvesting plants sustainably and just sort of some general knowledge about plants, they all came from two main sources, and the first one was grandmother Karen Williams. She was Chippewa. I don't know from exactly which place, She used to be the grandmother who ran all the cultural programming at Minwashin Lodge a long time ago. I'm not going to say how long ago, so that way I don't age myself, but it was quite some time ago. And then all the things I sort of learned from her and her cultural programming, I relearned from the author, Robin Wall Kimmerer. And she does the books Braiding Sweetgrass and Gathering Moss, which are both fantastic books. They're basically a combination of like botanical scientific knowledge mixed with Anishinaabe teachings. And I'm pretty sure both books are available at the Ottawa Public Library if anyone's interested in reading them. But in those teachings and in those books, they talk about how in Indigenous cultures, you can't really truly come to know something until you learn to understand it with all four aspects of your being. So that would be your mental, your physical, your emotional, and your spiritual. And the thing with plants, you can see the little planter there that I made in last week's video, is it's really easy to understand plants with your mind and your body. Like, I can look at this, I know it's pineapple sage, I can feel it, the texture, I can smell it. But the thing is, it's a lot harder to learn how to connect with your emotions and with your spirit. And the truth is nobody can really give you an exact step-by-step of how to do it, because for everybody it's going to be different. And I'm going to tell you guys a little story. So the story of how I became much more spiritually connected with plants and the earth actually happened right here on this very lawn. And it only happened last year. I spent 2 years taking the horticultural therapy course, and although I learned many great things and I started to make some connections, it wasn't until last summer that I made that really deep connection. And basically, last year this lovely lawn was not here. It was all weeds. And I say that in quotes because the definition of a weed is a plant that's growing where it's not wanted. And I had no problem with them growing here, but my parents did. And since it's their lawn, they went out and I took out the plants that they didn't want. And literally there was no grass. This was just a giant sea of weeds. And my compromise with them was that I was not going to spray any harmful chemicals. So I literally, on my hands and knees, for weeks at a time, was hand pulling weeds every day. And I told you before that one of the things I like to do is listen when I'm out in nature, just listen. So that's what I would do. I would come out and pull weeds and just listen to the wind and the plants, and like the wind blowing in the plants and the birds and the sounds of the neighborhood and stuff. And you know, I got to thinking a lot about soil and soil health. I'm super passionate about soil health. It's really important, and I will do a video about it later. But I really got to thinking about all the things that live in the soil. and came to the realization that there's quite possibly more things that live in Mother Earth than there are things living on Mother Earth. And I say that because of microbes. And the reason why that I say that is because 1 teaspoon of soil, that much, can contain up to 1 billion microbes. Just that tiny little bit. And if you go out into untouched wildlife, like meadows that haven't really been touched or developed by humans, or forests that are relatively untouched, 1 teaspoon of soil from those places can potentially contain more microbes than there are human beings on the face of the earth. My realization moment of exactly how alive Mother Earth is. And when I say Earth, I literally mean the Earth, because when we think of Mother Earth, you know, we think about the things we can see, the stuff that's growing on it, the trees, the plants, the birds, the fish, the four-legged creatures, the human beings. But we don't really think about all the stuff that's actually in the soil. The second part of this video is going to be some places in Ottawa that you can enjoy nature. Here we are. We're at the entrance for one of the entrances for the Ottawa River, and you can see there's lots of beautiful nature to soak in. I would love to take you guys to all the different locations I'm going to suggest to you today, but I did unfortunately throw out my back, and I can't be upright for too long. There's a little hidden pathway there. I'll take you down that way in a minute. Here we go. You can literally walk along these pathways to the Ottawa River for hours. So if you follow the pathway this way, this will take you eventually to the Blair Road boat launch, and there's a yacht club, and eventually it goes all the way out to where the Aviation Museum is and the RCMP stables. If you follow this path this way, this will eventually take you all the way out to Orleans, and I think it will eventually take you out to Cumberland. So like I said, you can literally walk along the river for hours. This particular spot is the one I prefer to come down to, just because this is where I used to come when I was a kid, so I'm more familiar with this stretch of it. And but there's a whole bunch. If you look, you can there's one on Shefford Road, there's one on Ogilvie Road, like the very north end of Shefford Road, there's a path to access it. The very north end of Ogilvie Road, there's a path to access it. If you go to the north end of Blair Road, there's an actual roadway that will take you down to the boat launch. And if you go along the parkway to the Aviation Museum, just past it, where the RCMP stables are, there's a couple of parking lots there with entrances. The other reason I like this particular entrance is because of this lovely little pathway that goes into the woods. Now, if you're going to go out walking in woods or in some of the places that I'm going to suggest, make sure that you have shoes and socks and pants on. And that is because the tick season is particularly bad in Ottawa this year. and I don't want anyone going out and getting bitten by any ticks. But yeah, I used to come along this lovely little hidden pathway. I mean, it's not so hidden, you can see it right when you walk by on the main pathway, but not too many people come in here, so it sort of gives you that feeling of being alone in the woods. I also like coming on these walks because you never know what you're gonna find. And I'm going to go into more detail about wild edibles and things you can harvest out in nature in another video, so I won't do too much here. But if we get in, lovely little bee, and that flower that he's feeding on, that is a vetch, and there's also some red clover mixed in here. And I think maybe some Queen Anne's lace, but I'm not 100% sure. But other things I've seen as I was walking in here, there was some giant cedar hedges, you know, that I could harvest some cedar off if I needed it for some medicine or to make tea. There's also a ton of burdock. And you can use burdock to make a tea too, and I'll go into that in another video. But I don't want you guys running out and like starting to harvest a whole bunch of stuff right now, because there are some things you definitely need to take into consideration. Like for instance, I mentioned there might be some Queen Anne's lace in that group of plants back there, but I wasn't sure. And the reason why I won't touch it, oh, here's some burdock. Burdock basically looks like a rhubarb plant, but kind of fuzzy and dull instead of shiny. So the Queen Anne's lace. Queen Anne's lace is basically just wild carrots. But the problem with it is there's another plant, I think in the hemlock family, that looks almost identical to it. And it's extremely poisonous. So my video seems to be having a very hard time uploading to YouTube. Basically every time I try, it won't process it, it fails. And my son thinks it's because I had recorded most of this video for you guys on my phone, and then I recorded a segment on my computer where I went on to Google and showed you some maps of Ottawa where you can find different places to go experience nature. And he thinks because of the two different apps have drastically different recording quality, that's why it's failing. So instead of seeing a nice video of my computer screen, you're just gonna have to look at me. Basically what I went over was just some nice places in Ottawa that you can go for a walk or a hike and experience nature. The first one was, if you just type in Ottawa River Pathways, there's a whole bunch of links to like the east end and the west end of the pathways that will show you maps where all the entrances are. I did mention a couple of entrances to you, but there's so many more than what I talked about. And then the next thing I did was the grounds around the M building at Algonquin College. They're beautiful. That's where the horticulture program is, and they develop the grounds as part of their programming, and you can go walk around. There's fountains, there's a pond, there's fish in the pond, there's a creek, there's just also, it's beautiful. So if you ever find yourself on campus and you want a nice place to study or just a spot to go walk around to relax a bit, go to the M building. And it's open even with COVID and lockdown. You can still go walk around. as long as you're respectful of the fact that this is the classroom for the horticulture students. So make sure you follow the proper socially distancing guidelines and stuff like that. And then the next one I want to talk to you about was Mud Lake. And this is a place in Ottawa that not too many people know about it. I lived here all my life, and I only found out about it like a month ago. And it is one of the most biologically diverse areas in Ottawa. There's species of birds and animals and plants there that you won't find in other places in Ottawa. And if you go into Google Maps and you type in Mud Lake, you will see it's actually, if anyone knows where Britannia is, or Britannia Beach, it's not too far from there. And it's fairly close to the college. The next one I wanted to talk about was the ornamental gardens at the experimental farm. They're really beautiful. And right across the street from them is the Arboretum, which is just this huge, massive place of all different kinds of trees, and there's different pathways you can go through to go through the Arboretum. And it's a really nice place to go, and it's right beside the experimental farm, so again, not too far from the college. And then if you're interested in something a little more challenging, it's still in the Ottawa area, but you'll definitely need a car to get there, is the Mayor Blue Bog. And again, if you Google that, it will show you on the map where it is. And this is a very unique place in Ottawa. It's its own microclimate, so the climate there is not the same as the rest of Ottawa. And there's actually stuff there that grows that should not grow here, but it does because of the microclimate. And the pathways there, I've only ever been on one. They can be quite long. The one I went to was something like, I think like 16 kilometers, and my husband and I got there and we're just like, no. So we did 3 kilometers in and then 3 kilometers out. And finally, the last thing you can do is if you just go on Google and type in hiking trails in Ottawa, it will give you a bunch of links that have some good hiking trails in Ottawa. And it does cover some that are in the West End, because I personally am just not very familiar with the West End. So hopefully this will, substituting this video will fix my upload issue. Cross your fingers for me. If you're seeing this, it means it did fix it. Anyhow, I'll see you guys all next week. I hope you have a good weekend, and take care and stay safe. Bye.